Yoga's changed my life massively. I can't even remember what life was like, but before I decided to do it, and not in the sense of the body, how my body feels. I think that's one separate thing, which I'll probably get into a little bit in this video, but the mental side of it, and I think we've seen a huge increase in recent years. About mental health being a discussion. I think especially amongst men, and a lot of people are going sober. You see a lot of like 0% alcohol, and it's all to do with mental health and drugs and the kind of party and clubbing weekend lifestyle is, a big main talking point for a lot of people. And there's many things inside of that. But for me, yoga allows me to stay balanced, stay zen, as you would say. I remember after a week of doing it, I went to the first class in October 2019, right? In California, San Jose, and I wish I did it earlier, but you do it when you're ready. And I remember going out there, and my apprehension to it was, I'll be honest, I thought it was either for women, or if it was for men, it was for gay men. I'll be completely honest, that was my kind of young, naive, early 20s outlook on that type of stuff. And then I started, getting into the Joe Rogan podcast, and then you got into UFC a little bit, and you watch how these guys do a lot of yoga and about their mind and the mentality of going into, a cage and fighting. And that kind of started to make me have a think about it. And I went, and I remember I did 5 days in a row, Monday through Friday, every day, 9 a.m. class for a full hour. Sometimes it was hot yoga, sometimes it was just normal yoga, different types, Ashtanga, Vinyasa, all those. And I was blown away at how calm and neutral I felt, because at that point in my life, I was having, for the first time ever, panic attacks. I was getting panic attacks. I had two, I remember, like severe ones, and through stress of a lot that was going on in my life at the time. And I remember just 5 days in, just being like, I felt so neutral. Things that would annoy me from people I was hanging around with and say, wouldn't annoy me. I wouldn't feel that like anger come up in me, and the reason to go and bite at people, that kind of lad culture banter that you have, certainly among British people. It helped me stay level, and I noticed that very, very, very quickly. Playing football, in terms of my body, I felt looser. I felt like I was able to do more, which I know is an obvious thing because you're stretching and you're opening your body up. But I think, you don't realize how much stress that you carry in your body in certain areas, your hips, your back, your neck, wherever it may be. And, a lot of people get up and move around all the time, exercising. And so it does help from that point of view. It alleviates stress from those areas, especially when you breathe into it. But the breathing and everything then leads into, meditation and the things I was feeling and thinking when I was lying there at the end of class or during poses, but mainly lying at the end of class in Shavasana. And just these thoughts that would come to mind, and how I would be like, yeah, I bite at that. And why do I bite at that? I'm defensive on that. And just the feeling, again, I'm coming back to it, but just the feeling of calmness, the feeling of just balance. And it's not to say it was always perfect. And at that time of my life, I'd stopped kind of drinking as much. I was putting alcohol to the side a little bit. So that was definitely helping. I was smoking weed, going to yoga, getting a little bit high in California, as you do. And I did yoga that way for a long time. I don't anymore. I do it sober now. But the combination of those two together, it was just literally magical, spiritual, as people say. But I'm making this video really just for people that are maybe laddie. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be laddie, it could be women as well, but just people that think of it in a way, in a specific way. Like I said, it starts for women, or you're a man and you're doing yoga. And you have to go, and we don't ever sit in silence with ourselves in this day and age. We got TVs, we got our phones, we got podcasts we listen to, music, headphones in our ear all the time. How often do you ever just sit with yourself? And it's really, really hard to do. I always laugh with my girlfriend, Holly. She's tried to do it a couple of times, and she's like that. And I'm like, but you need to, it's because your mind's constantly going. That's what it's so used to. You have to just sit there and go through the class and get through it. And you need to do it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, like anything. It's not going to feel, right away. I got it within the first 5 days. That's great for me, but I understand it's not going to be that way for everybody else. So if you're looking for a tool, something to do for sometimes even just 20 minutes in the morning, half an hour if you can get it in there, hot yoga, there's different types of styles you can try and find what you like. Yin yoga is very good, where you hold the poses for a long period of time and there's not as much movement. It's all relative to what you find that's going to help you. But peace of mind up here is massive, and it really gives me that. So if you're considering something and you want a tool to help you in your life, I mean, if I look at it now, really with yoga, what I went through, I had a mushroom trip, which had a lot to do with starting yoga and being in that kind of spiritual place, and it got me intrigued to try that, and I'm really glad I did, and definitely will do again, probably at some point this year. I haven't done it in 6 years now. That was back in 2020. I did it just as COVID hit, and yeah, I just think that finding time with yourself and the balance of it, and everything I've gone through at this moment in my life, like losing my dad last year, I'd be a different man if I didn't have yoga to have relied on and have a linchpin and be as a tool just to kind of keep myself stable, especially moments when I'm feeling really down and feeling really lost, especially in life as well, as I know we all are, with careers and jobs, and especially being 32 and kind of dealing with that societal thought on it. But after every single time I do yoga, I just sit there and I'm like, oh my God, like I just feel so calm, so trusting in myself. I notice people that aren't that way and how they think. And I'm not being judgy, and I'm not saying it's like, the key to everything, but it's a really good tool, and I think it would really help. So if you're thinking about doing it out there, find some books on it. I have a book up here, Autobiography of a Yogi. It's a pretty popular book. I do have that there. It's self-realization. It's an interesting one. You don't always get into books, and everything's not always going to be it. And I've got a couple of other yoga books up here somewhere at some point. Even things like The Art of War and everything like that. Man's Search for Meaning. But everything, I bought a book, Threads of Yoga, that my yoga teacher in Edinburgh and Leith on Broughton Street, she used to read, and I struggled to get into it. But that's not to say that everything you read you're going to enjoy and all that type of stuff. But if you have any questions about it, let me know. I need to get another podcast in with a yoga teacher, I think, and now that I'm in a different place from the last time I did it and how important it is for me, I need to get another podcast in. But if you're thinking about trying it, my advice would be give it a go and stick with it and use it as a tool and just try and do it. Sometimes just sit and meditate, turn the telly off and everything like that in your house. Maybe lie on the couch, get a blanket over you, headphones in. I do that a lot. Meditation sounds, set the timer for 10 minutes, give it a bash. I guarantee you do feel a lot better. It's a big positive thing that I've found in my life, and I hope it can help you too. That's what this channel's all about, to share my thoughts and things that help me, that might help others. So hope everyone's doing good out there, all right?